Misha, how's it going, man?
Good, how you doing, buddy?
Good, it's an honor.
Thank you.
To get started, I'd love to talk about going from Russia to you end up in New Jersey working with Russian fighters coming to the United States. How does that even happen? Like, what was the actual sequence of events that brought you from Russia to New Jersey?
I've been here since 1996. I came in when I was 15, like by myself. So I had a long journey. Been in America for a very long time. Traveled all across the country. Was in United States Navy. Met a lot of people. Had a lot of different jobs, a lot of different responsibilities. Moved around, and ended up in New Jersey. I was in the car business. Um, I ended up I was selling very like high-end cars, and I had martial arts experience. Obviously, I spoke Russian. It's a very heavily populated Russian former USSR in a way community. Tri-state, New York, New Jersey, and ended up selling a very expensive car to one of the original managers that. Started bringing in all the top Russian fighters from Russia. They weren't top at the time
Hmm.
here in America, obviously,
Right.
right? It was the first wave of Dagestan fighters, fighters from all kind of the regions of Russia, Chechnya, Dagestan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, the hungry nations, I call them.
Mhm.
The mountain men coming down to rain havoc, on American MMA, as we've all seen
Yeah.
recently, right?
Mhm.
Um, and little by little, we started talking, and I've been already training jiu-jitsu. I had a background in sambo from Russia. I trained judo. So with all the martial arts experience, I was kind of like a perfect fit to kind of get into it. And I was tired of being in that business.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was exciting. So I started traveling all around the country, all over the world with fighters. And one of the first fighters in that management team was Khabib Nurmagomedov. He was very young. He came into America, I believe he was 17 and 0 only. He must have already made maybe one fight or two fights in UFC, and then that's when I walked in and we started working together. And as many other Russian fighters or fighters from Russia, as they would say. Um, and before I knew it, I'm like deep into the game, and it's been already 20 years. I've been in MMA sport, done a lot of great things, still doing them. It's been a very interesting journey. Very fun sport,
Mhm.
very fun environment with a lot of its challenges that have been thrown my way. In this sport, we'll learn how to overcome the hardest of the hard, and just keep moving forward.
100%. And sort of going back on how you brought in that first wave of Russian fighters or from the hungry nations, what was that world like? Because, like you said, Russian fighters coming out of Russia weren't really, known in combat sports. So, what were you seeing in these guys that made you believe they were gonna make that step and take over American MMA?
Well, we always knew how hungry and how good the Russian MMA is. It's
Mhm.
just wasn't discovered on American soil yet. If you look through the days of Pride, right, with Fyodor Emelianenko, his brother Sergei Kharitonov, and there was many other Dagestan fighters there, and I watched a lot of underground Russian MMA on VHS tapes back in the day too. Like you would think, it wasn't known, but it was known worldwide. It just haven't been because America is obviously a different continent, right? It's been hard for these fighters to come here, and it took a long time for them to develop show their skills on the Russian regional scene, Europe, and everywhere they could, and then slowly they started migrating to the United States of America, and obviously everyone saw the level that they bring. And it was just much easier to move them because I remember that time when Khabib came on the scene, Adlan Amagov came on the scene, Rustam Khabilov came on the scene, Timur Valiev, Shabulal Shamalaev, and all these bigger names started coming in. Karashkov, Shlemenko through Bellator. It just was the numbers weren't as many, let's say, as Brazilians were, for example, right? And Americans, right? Because it's an American promotion. But they saw pure dominance, right? So in America caught major interest in Russian MMA, seeing how all these killers were coming in, right? And they were stone cold and they talk a lot of trash.
Mm.
They're not scared to fight anybody because a lot of those guys, they coming in, they've been fighting since a very young age, from 5, 6 years of age. By the time I have one Chechen guy right now working with, he's supposed to fight Grant Neal. His name is Ismail Israelov. Is going to fight Grant Neal for a title and Ignite MMA and
Right.
potentially getting a contender. Like he's got 250 fights, man. Like these guys are undiscovered, right? They come in into these camps and just like mop the floor with people. And most people like, what is this? Like, where are you coming from? And there's thousands of those guys. They just can't come to America.
So, building on that with those fighters, you say they start training and they start fighting at ages 5 to 6. When you're getting in the ring at such an early age, what does that do for your confidence building up as you get older when you're fighting those guys that are known names and, as you said, you're an undiscovered fighter?
Well, when they're coming in and fighting, they're immune. They're immune to that environment. Like it's if you were bred for this and that's all you know, you don't feel any kind of pressure like this anymore. When I was in the corner with Khabib and I would get more nervous than the fighters themselves. They're like, hey, it's either me or them. Like you wouldn't see any kind of emotions from a lot of these fighters. And you don't see the nerves like you would see on other people, and that's why I tell a lot of American athletes that I work with, and everybody is so eager to jump into MMA. They would do 3, 4, 5 amateur fights. Let's say they'll do great,
Right.
beat couple, whoever, whatever, and then they hit the pro circuit and they get demolished right away, and the career is over, right? So the amateur career of a lot of fighters from Russia is so long because they travel all around the country. They compete in anything they can get hands on. They have sambo, they have judo, they have grappling tournaments, they have wrestling. Obviously, they grew up. They have wushu sanda, they have kudo, they have I mean, you name it, hand-to-hand combat, right? Which is a huge Russian sport. It resembles MMA, and a lot of these gentlemen and the fighters that when they come to America, they carry titles of like Master of Sports in Combat Sambo, International Master of Sports in whatever freestyle wrestling, right? And in order for you to even place or carry this type of title, you gotta like carry, or you gotta fight who's of who on the regional amateur circuits, and like you don't get to where you are without fighting major competition in Russia, right? Because in order for you to get a diploma, like for example, International Master of Sports, you have to defend it every year. Like you have to enter competitions. It's not like here you become a black belt, you get a certificate. Like you don't need to really compete to
Mm.
become a black belt, right?
Right.
Like it's just you put in 10, 15 years on the mats, maybe competed some, maybe didn't compete some. You don't really need to beat anybody best in the country to receive a black belt, right? For
Right.
example, over there, in order for you to make that rank, you have to go through the killer's row. So that's why when we're talking about 200 to, 250, 300 fights, is these guys compete every weekend for, as long as they need to. By the time they reach their teenage years and turn 18, 19, they're so experienced
Right.
that when they come to America and even there they start fighting pros, they fight in like you'll have 18-year-old, 19-year-olds fighting 35-year-old man,
Yeah.
some regional MMA scene and multiple fights a day sometimes, no multiple fights a night. So for them it's like, oh well. Just another one. I win, I lose, or but that's experience counts when you get to pros, right? That's why they're winning everything, the pro circuit, because how immune they are to that experience.
When you talk about these nations, how the hungry nation, it seems, training, getting into the ring at that early age is almost normalized. You farther you go away in the world, across the border, it seems like that early experience, getting in there, multiple fights a day, starts to vanish almost. You get to countries like America. What do you think is the reason for that differ?
Oh, the amateur circuit is not developed here. It's very hard to build. Like you're not going to stay and fight amateur for 20, 30, 40 fights, right? So it's very hard. It's a long, very long path. The what I noticed from obviously running Jackson Winklejohn gym for so many years and so many fighters that coming through, a lot of them come from other backgrounds like wrestling, for example, right, which is a great base for MMA, and they jump in straight into maybe amateur do five, six, seven, eight, maybe 10 fights. But let's say if you're a collegiate wrestler, a D1, and you jumping in on amateur circuit, nobody's going to want to fight you. Like,
Right.
so you might be get lucky to get two, three fights and jump into pros.
Mhm.
So, and wrestlers make phenomenal athletes, obviously, but it's just the different system the way it's done here. That's why, in a way, I mean, there was a lot of great American champions, but me being in management and dealing with so many Russian fighters, for example, there's a um, directive is from top echelon of UFC that they do not want to sign any Russian athletes, right? Because um, they just win everything, right? They don't create big drama. Yeah, you have some select few. Khabib originally wasn't a big trash talker. As later on, when he kept winning and winning and winning, he is very humble, very professional, and that's how all of them are. Same as with Hamzat, these guys don't talk much. It just once you come to America, this environment kind of asks you for, hey, if you want to make money, if you want to get to the top of the game, you need to create big drama show, right? Big drama show like maybe not
100%.
drama show, drama show. So that's what I'm saying because now with the Paramount deal in UFC, right? They need subscriptions, right? They need American champions, and there's none. So what does it tell you, right? They need to create American champions. Now, when I talk to all this kind of UFC Fight Pass promotions, and I talk to trying to get these Russian fighters on the card. Let's say they are 5-0 pro, 6-0 pro, 7-0 pro, 9-0 pro. They're all like that. 11-0 pro, 12-0 pro. Like you can't get them a fight. I talk to promoters like nobody want to fight them. Like we can't, and they stop talking to you. They're like, just stop. Like don't send me Russian fighters anymore because first of all, it's oversaturated, right? Because there's so many of them coming to America and every best MMA gym just look at American top team. At Jackson Winklejohn, I would have 15 Russian fighters hungry, um, and they would be the top competition for anyone, even on undiscovered athletes. And then they go compete. Yes, they do lose once in a while, but you know that when you fight in someone from those regions, you are in for a very hard fight. That's why it's a little the landscape of MMA changed dramatically with Islam coming like Khabib, Islam, Hamzat, Arman Tsarukyan. You got Izor. He just fought Evloev, right? So like all these guys are coming in and they have tremendous records. Nobody want to fight them. Yeah, and there's so many undiscovered guys out there, hungry. They're walking around the gym like this all the time, like please, please, and you see them very frustrated. And so it's no longer about who is the best. Honestly, it's about obviously the show and drama show and big drama. Um, that's how it is.
Yeah, and I mean, going on that drama show, you take a guy like Khabib, it's really hard to stay humble putting him against a guy like McGregor. So
Yeah.
I can understand, it almost takes the drama show out of you, and almost also
Mhm.
because you can't let McGregor talk to you like that.
Even you've seen, right, when they fought the press conference, Khabib tried to hold the composure as much as possible, but just McGregor knows how to push the buttons, right? So it's probably one of the most memorizable experiences in the fight that just stands out on its own, like you have select few rivalries that stand on that level, right?
Mhm.
Just select few. You can honestly probably count them on one hand, right? Like Khabib, McGregor, Jon Jones, Rashad Evans. Like who else can you? Not yeah. Then Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier.
Yeah, that's
But
right. Yeah,
how many more can you really call that stand out that deep? Not that many.
those are the two ones that stand out to me for sure.
I would say Khabib McGregor probably number one drama show that of all time.
100%. Just because you take the biggest showman in the sport against one of the greatest fighters in the sport ever, it was guaranteed.
The crazy part about like everything that was leading up to the fight, right? All that, the
Oh,
bus
yeah, the
and then
bus.
after,
After was
after
crazy.
when he's flying out like an eagle from the cage, stomping on Dylan Dennis and all those dudes, and then there was a lot of fights in the lobby happening. That Irish versus Dagestanis and Chechens and Muslims. There was like major beef going on. So there's a lot of fights in the backstage.
That environment must have been insane. And were you present in that backstage?
No,
No?
unfortunately, no, no. But I knew a lot of people that were part
Yeah,
of that. So
that's
I've
insane.
seen I've seen a lot of backstage footage, like in the lobbies and everything. And there was a lot of people I saw in circles that they were like fighting Irishmen versus the funny part was that most of the Irish that were in the fights, they were all drunk,
Yeah.
like drunk. And all the Muslims, they don't drink,
So
right?
it's not a fair fight. Oh,
So it wasn't a fair fight. So plus you get all these bearded dudes that know how to fight with cauliflower ears and just Irish fans. Yeah, I've seen guys just dropping left and right. Honestly, I was like, I mean, as much as I love McGregor, I mean, Irish, I think took a major major loss that.
yeah, that was that whole night, that Ireland took a little bit of a loss for sure.
A little bit, I think is pretty painful.
I'd like to switch paces a little bit and go on to Jackson Rink MMA. It's been around since before the UFC existed. What does it, take to keep a gym at the top for that long when, a sport like MMA is evolving so fast?
It was a challenge. It was a challenge because there are so many other great gyms opened up, and obviously Jackson Winklejohn is pioneers of the sport, right? So back in the day when there was only three, four mega camps, they were one of the first ones. And with the rise of the sport, obviously the gym rose to its prominence, and then there are so many other great gyms opened up, and the competition was through the roof. And being in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is hard. It's a very especially for international athletes to come here and establish themselves is not easy versus going to um, um, Florida
Florida,
or
LA.
California, aka or Colorado, Vegas, right? So it was very challenging to keep up with competition. So we always had to innovate and always improvise. And obviously, the two of the greatest coaches
Yeah.
that nobody had that, right? So we had to bank on them being there and coaching and innovating and doing all the things. But it was very challenging. It's a lot of challenges came from a lot of ego. And the fighters constantly duking it out and leaving the gym because when you have big personalities like Jon Jones and Diego Sanchez and Donald Cerrone and Mike Paris and Alistair Overeem, Andrei Arlovsky. So it happened where they had a lot of times where they had to fight each other, right? And Jim suffered dramatically from it, right? Because gym would get divided into different camps, and some guys on this side because they had a relation with this guy, and then there's, on this side. So and it broke the team in so many pieces, and I found myself that it was very hard to collect all these pieces and put it back together. So um, it affected me directly because when try to stay on the top and compete with all the major gyms and still try to win the gym of the year and things like that, it became virtually kind of like impossible because of um, the environment and competition that mainly was created by a big influx of money into other gyms like America Top Team, right? They have billionaire, let's say, supporting the team. They have Las Vegas. There's a lot of gyms that with UFCPI and
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
major gyms over there. So a lot of fighters started moving into these locations because the talent pool and opportunities are much more bigger over there. That's why I created our own in-house management program that I'm currently revamping, and because I'm no longer with Jackson Wing, so um, kind of went on my own and working on my management program and some other projects I'm trying to work on. But managing fighters was always my passion, trying to get the guys to the top of the game. And it's going to be called Vanguard Worldwide Sports Management. Um, we still have a lot of fighters on the roster. I just signed Diego Brandao to a multi-fight deal with Karate Combat, and we have Armus Gaitan fighting this weekend, coming off of a very nice bare knuckle win. Um, yeah, I mean,
Mm.
the, the game never stops, right? You go as far as you can or as you want.
Mm.
So just continue to grind and just develop talent and kind of like build my own thing and stand on my own because I've been in the game for 20 years. I know a lot of people. I'm working with a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of calls, a lot of different I guess I would say proposals from different things that I could be part of. Um, this game is fun. It's hard to walk away from it, and like yourself, you like the sport and you try and get into podcasting and talk to different fighters and personalities, which is it drags you deeper and deeper the longer you stay in it. It becomes much more fun. So hopefully you find yourself as well and get good opportunities to hopefully make money from something that you like doing. That's the most important part, obviously, right?
Right. Right.
Starts like I was a fan like everyone else. Everyone who got into the sport was a fan once upon a time, They
Right.
either competed, they either did something, but most of the time you're a fan, right? You
Right.
wouldn't be
Yeah.
doing it if you didn't like it, right? So, and it's not a bad thing, Sometimes people, oh, he's just a fan. No, being a fan of something is good, right? Like if you're a fan of NFL and you find yourself to work for NFL, right?
That'd
And
be
now you're
awesome.
a fan of the sport and you're making money from it. So it's a win-win scenario, right? So it's like they say, don't, if you find something you can do, wake up and be happy and make money from it. It means your life is successful and you can enjoy living it.
That's the goal. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm curious, with that in-house management, you have fighters, living there. What's that culture like inside that building, day to day?
Chaotic, man, very chaotic. And like I said, a lot of egos, a lot of one biggest thing that I always envied in a way, in a good way, is how disciplined, let's say, Khabib's team was, right? And I tried to replicate it, but it's very hard dealing with young people, right? That have no direction in life and no support whatsoever. Um, and when the discipline is not instilled in them. So I struggled a lot with that, right? So there was a lot of drama, a lot of fights, a lot of conflicts. So pretty much for 24/7 for 11 years, I lived in a conflict like every day, no days off. There's always something going on, right?
Right.
And it was fun, but it's draining. So I always hoped that people took serious the sport because the way I was always, if I'm in, something, if
Right.
I'm into something, I'm all in into it, right? And I will do everything I can. And I never understood that young people, they drop education, they don't have jobs, they can't hold down to a job, they constantly get in trouble, and they go into MMA, and they think they're going to become an overnight sensation, like Jon Jones, for example, without putting in the work,
Yeah.
and not having a backup. Of, let's say, I always used to say, you one fight, one knockout, one injury away from never fighting again. And a lot of young people, they put all eggs in one basket. This is it for me. I don't have nothing, you know. And I've been talking to people from all around the world because this is international camp with so many people coming to the gym. I was always presented with people's kind of like with people begging, like, please, get me out of this environment. I want to be, because MMA is such a popular sport. People see the rise of all these fighters, right? They have fans, and a lot of these fighters come from very poor backgrounds, with very hard backgrounds, very hard life, right?
Right.
So, and a lot of people find looking for the way out from their environment, and people would be sending me videos or pictures, like flexing and stuff, or how they're like training in their garage and hitting the bag somewhere like in Africa, and they're like, I'm poor, I don't have no money, please sponsor me, please help me. And you can't help everybody, so
Right.
it's always, and I was the type of person where I always had to respond to everybody. I couldn't ignore people pleading for help. I'm like, brother, you got to find a way. Like, we can't just, we get thousands of messages, and everybody's asking to help them, but at the same time, we're not a charity, it's a
Right.
business. And
100%.
we have been helping a lot of people, that have find themselves into the gym. But yeah, it's different now. It's different now. The sport is advancing in such a fast pace that it's just almost impossible to keep up with it. And even if you look at how UFC operates, they're not really building a lot of talent. It's such a big, well-oiled machine that every weekend there are fights, right? Every weekend, some new guys are coming out of nowhere, right? It's so oversaturated. Like, I don't watch UFC anymore. Like, it's unless any of our guys fought, I didn't watch MMA at all. Even before, back in the day, there was event once a month or whatnot. There was big build up, and you look forward to watching it. Remember, like, it's just like, yes, now it's like, who's this guy?
Everyone.
Where, so it's every weekend, and you can't get, you don't have enough time to get behind anybody, right? There's no character development, and it just became a one big incubator, just next, whoever stands out, you move up, whatever, and they have some stars, but no one like Conor McGregor, no one like Khabib right now, right? Like, nobody like Jon Jones. It's just, yeah, and it's a very difficult sport to get through. 0.0001% of people will ever make it. And the guys that even do get it through the door to UFC, just competition is such a high level that, and you lose one, two, three, I mean, two, three fights, bye bye, right? So it's not just getting into that. Then imagine you put all your years, all your life into trying to get to UFC. You're pretty good considerably, right? You step in, and then you lose all your fights, or you don't look good, and they cut you. And then what is your backup plan after? Let's say you fought in UFC, but you didn't really make a name for yourself, and then you pretty much left with nothing, right? And you didn't really make any money either. So it's a hard one. It's a really hard one.
So on those people, you've trained with guys like you said, poor guys from to champions to legends. Without who surprised you the most from like when you first met them to who they turned out to be?
So many, my friend, so many. I mean, Khabib, one of them, right? Like, you get guys that like, you never know, right? You never know. Like, there's so many times where you would think that this is the person who will never make it or will never end up in UFC because you just don't see it in him, is the person that actually ends up in UFC and ends up doing very good. And then you have the guys that are like, man, so many times I was misled by my own, I guess, like, you get fond of somebody, right? They come in, it's like, this guy's a beast, like, because I trained with all these guys too, right? Like, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, second degree, I kickboxed, I did sambo. So I spent hours, thousands of hours on the mats with a lot of guys and went head to toe with a lot of them, right? And they'll be like, this is the guy, this is the guy, and that's not the guy. So, and I was like, he's gonna make it, he's gonna become the next big, there's so many guys that come in. This is the next Jon Jones. This is the next Jon Jones. Even Greg or Wink, everybody's guilty of it. They would be like, that's the next guy, but it's not. And then the guy that you don't even think is going to be the next guy becomes the next guy. Like, for example, Josh Hockett, right? Came out of
Yeah,
like, okay,
out of
cool.
nowhere.
Yeah, had no striking whatsoever. By the time he got to UFC, he wrestled everybody. He was like, what, 5-0, 6-0, whatever. He didn't
Yeah,
throw a punch barely any, and
no,
he
I
ends up
didn't.
and he gets in UFC, just nothing but brawls. So you just do not know. I cannot pinpoint names exactly.
Right, right.
This is too many to name.
You've trained with so many fighters, over the years. Is there anyone there that you consider, a genuine friend in not just a professional relationship or a fighter that came and went and you feel like that relationship moved to like a real friendship?
Yeah, there are some, but select few. One of my really good friends that I talk to almost every day is Milinho Rama. He was a World Series of Fighting, the youngest heavyweight champion in history of all the major MMA promotions. He made history, and he just finished was it business school, Harvard Business School or
Okay.
something. Very smart
Wow.
guy,
Yeah.
and became youngest heavyweight champion. And by when WSOF was a really big organization, and then it turned into PFL. A select few because I always try to keep myself at bay. It's hard to make, as many as awesome fighters you come across with, and so many personalities that you want to be friends with, but you kind of have to keep it all professional at a distance.
Mhm.
That's what kind of was me, because the more personal you get with them, the worse it is for the future because
You have a
they have,
bias.
yeah, it's biased, but then they carry a lot of skeletons. And me running the gym, everyone's problems became my problems because I was in the middle of the whole chaos. And it became really painful and hard for me to carry everyone's problems, and I burn out.
Mhm.
And it's like I can't, I'm not everyone's babysitter, everyone's mama, and everyone's got to deal with everyone's problems. I got problems of my own. And that's kind of why that fallout
Mhm.
ended up happening. And I laughed because I need to focus about, my family
Right.
and focus on my own problems
Mhm.
versus everyone else's. And everybody just kind of dropped everything on me, because everybody would come in as uh, like I was in charge in making their dreams come
Right.
true. Because
Mhm.
if you're in the middle, everybody knows what Jackson Wink produced. They know how many great fighters came out of there, and a lot of these fighters, because part of my job was obviously to generate income for the gym, and I had to chase a lot of fighters, and they don't work, and they have problems. They have baby mama drama. They have knocked the girl out. They have baby on the way, um, legal troubles.
Right.
I mean, you name it, right?
Mhm.
And it's something that in order to keep the gym afloat, and a lot of these guys that would get in trouble, like look at Jon Jones, how many times he got in trouble, right?
Uh-huh.
And then at the highest level, think about all the other guys. Let's say you have a great up and comer coming up, that looks like Jon Jones and extremely talented, and now he has all these problems in this world,
Right.
right? And it became mine because like I have to like help him solve those problems
Right.
so they can continue fighting. And they got to get them fights, and they got to get them ready for the fights. And one day they want to fight, the next day they don't want to fight. They can't cut weight. They don't know how to cut weight. They miss weight. They get in trouble. They pop for something. You go to a state where you can't smoke weed. You smoke weed. Blah blah blah. You get commission. It's people don't see what happens behind the scenes.
Right.
But and I always told people fighting is chaos. You got to do your medicals. You know how many fighters, the young kids, they can't even figure out how to get blood work done. So it's like it would fall everything on me because I'm like I'm not your mama. You know, your mama don't live
Real blood
here. You
work.
gotta be responsible for your own stuff. And they always would wait for the last minute, right? It's like you have deadline by when you need to turn in your medicals. You need to turn in physical, you need to turn in your blood work, you need to turn in your eye exam. If you have MRI, you gotta do your MRI, you gotta do your EKG. And they would wait till like last minute. And then the crazy part about it, you wait till last minute, you get done whatever you get done, and then let's say something is not correct, or you need to resolve, like let's say something popped up on your EKG. You
Mm.
need to get clearance from neurologist or whatever, right?
And you have
Like
to
you
chase
don't have
the
time. You
yeah.
don't have time. So now your fight is in jeopardy. And it
Mm.
was just always like, oh my God, man, you work so hard to secure the fight.
And
You
they can't fight.
trained so hard to get to that fight. You couldn't wait, and just because of your negligence, and you wait until the end time. And so many times, like I don't have $100. I don't have $100 to get a blood work. So who does the $100 come from? Me, you know. And then they don't fight, and then you gotta chase the guy. And like, hey, can you get my $100 back?
Nope.
Like, yeah, you know. So people don't see that part of the sport.
Is there I was actually gonna ask you a little about that. Would you consider that is the hardest part of the sport that nobody talks about, controlling these personalities?
Oh yeah, people have no idea what happens behind the scenes. I wish there was more media and attention dedicated to what other people like support staff and the coaches and managers deal with. I find myself laughing a lot of times when people say like, "Why do you need a manager?" I mean, like, do you want me to really get deep into it? Why do you need a manager? You think 18-year-old kid can get to UFC without somebody guiding him and helping him? They
Couldn't even
never,
get his blood work done.
yeah, they can't even get their blood work done. They can't get anything done, bro. Like
Mm.
they diet, they eat McDonald's a fight week, you know. It's like because it's cheap or they
Right.
miss weight. There's so much goes behind the scenes to get the fighter from point A to UFC or to any other kind of organization. People's like, oh, when they get to UFC, it's a standard contract, 12 plus 12. All the manager does is just take contract from here, give it to here. I'm like, yeah, but like it depends, right? Like if it's a regional manager that guided the fighter from when he was an amateur all the way to UFC, that manager deserves to reap the benefits
Yeah.
of all that work.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent countless hours and money towards fighters, you know,
Mm-hmm.
help them get to where they are, right? Because by the time they get to UFC, they had 15 fights, 12 fights, 7 fights, 8 fights. How did they get those fights? It's somebody had to go hustle and find those fights for them and invest in them to get them to that level. So it's I know managers get a bad rap,
Mm.
but a lot of managers have really good heart. They're also fans of the sport. They want to do great things. They want to live an exciting life. They want to be part of it. They love the sport. A lot of them come from combat backgrounds, and they hustle just like the fighters. But fighter does need support. When fighter gets to UFC or any of the major big leagues, they didn't do it by themselves.
Yeah.
It's coaches, it's sports staff, it's sponsors, and it's just unfortunate that the fans and the people of the sport they get to see only when they get to
Mm.
UFC. Everything that's happened before doesn't count anymore.
You said in a past interview that you live for this job, you live for, being in the sport. When you have a hard day, what is it that, keeps you going? You know?
For me, it was always training. It's
Mhm.
it's that 1 hour, hour and a half, 2 hours at the end of the day where I was able to put everything on hold, put all that drama and all that commotion aside, and train, because when you train you forget about things, especially jiu-jitsu and things like that where you're in the moment, and that's the only thing that kept me sane. But then I suffered major injuries to my body because I'm almost 50 and I'm 47, not 50, I don't want to say it, but I'm 47 this year. And yeah, I suffered a lot of problems in my lower back and shoulders and things like that, where it became so much harder to train, and it played a significant role in my sanity,
Mm.
because my happy place was kind of taken away from me, you know.
Mhm.
Uh, I couldn't do what I wanted to do because I lived and breathed training, you
Right.
know, got all the way to black belt, second degree, and stuff like that. And now I can't do what I want to do, you know. And I was resorted to just walking. Think about it. So you go from this intensity and training with all these guys to not being able to do that because of
Mhm.
physical limitations. So I'm still dealing with trying to fix it. I have like, I guess you call it extrusion in my lower back, or like a higher, more advanced version of herniation. You know,
Okay.
when the disc leaking. So anytime I do anything, it just like
Yeah. Mhm.
also I'm thinking of like surgery intervention, and I got a bunch of doctor schedule, but that was my happy place.
Sort of switching paces a little bit. You worked with two of the greatest minds in the sport, Greg Jackson and Mike Winklejohn. What do you think something that's misunderstood about, what you and like these two guys do for fighters, beyond what's shown? Because when, that fight comes, these guys were you guys are in the corners. They're not the highlight is on the fighters. So what is it that you guys are doing that for them that, us fans don't really see?
Well, like just explain the same thing, right? Like Coach Winklejohn is the owner of the gym, for example, right? And Greg is like head coach and stuff. They divided the responsibilities, but I mean, the amount of energy and effort goes into the fighters is just, I mean, if this is your whole life, this is your whole life. You know, coaches live through their fighters. So for one fighter, it's just them, right? But think about it, you have multiple and a lot of them and different personalities. For example, like at the gym, right? Like Greg, think about it. Greg is training Gable Stevenson, right? Who just
Mhm.
got signed to UFC Olympic gold medalist. Wink, you got Josh Hockett. They were both training him. Now they're in a collision course, right? And
Yeah.
now the big drama brewing, right? Jon Jones is part of Stevenson camp, right? So now Greg is not apparently cornering anyone at the White House. You heard the news, right?
I didn't hear
So
that. No, I thought he was cornering Hookit.
no, Hockett and Steve Garcia is on that card. So Greg stepped away. It was all over the news. He's not doing it. Why? I have no idea. Is it political motivated? Is not. I have no idea. I'm not part of the camp anymore.
Right.
Um, Um, but what those guys deal with is insane. Like
Mhm.
it's crazy amount of pressure, right? Because the gym and the coaches are judged by the performance of their fighters, right? Greg used to always say, you know, the wins are for my fighters, the losses are for me.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, so and um and it's hard. It's hard, you know. And I've been in a lot of corners of the fighters too. And when they lose the fight, it's very difficult being backstage there and experiencing that disappointment that the fighter experiencing because especially at the lower level or mid level or anything where every fight is a lot of stakes, right?
Right.
But you know, if let's say you lost two or three UFC fights, right? You have one fight left on the contract or whatever. You have last chance.
Mm-hmm.
No, like you lose that fight, you cut. So game over, right?
Right.
And coaches experience all that, and they have to plan for all that. And the way they console fighters, the way they deal with all these personalities, and with the fallouts, right? Because fighters are emotional human beings. You know, they lose the fight, they blame the coach, they leave. Um, happens in a lot of
Mhm.
scenarios. Um, a lot of the things are not being seen, obviously, by general public. It's
Right.
chaos like no other. It's Coach Winklejohn invested in a lot of fighters, and they ended up leaving. And it is no structure in a way where, you know, we always talk about like loyalty and things like that. And the grass is green, always green on the other side, how the people say, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, you know, and it's very hard for a coach and for manager when you put so much time into somebody and somebody comes in, you know, dangles something in front of them and you lose that fighter that you invested so much time and money and energy into it. Yeah, I mean, we can talk hours and hours of how
Right.
much coaches do based on particular scenarios and dealing with so many things to get the fighter to where they're trying to go. But it take hours. Yeah, it's significant.
People need to hear this. I think my biggest takeaway is this pressure that it seems like you get. You have all of these fighters with all of these stakes, and it seems like all of that pressure is, that's on your shoulders. And you go into these, a card and you have four or so fighters on a card or so. That's a lot of pressure to, you have to go through that four times in one night. So I think that that side of being a manager, being a coach is really interesting and important to be heard.
Yeah. I've seen and it hurts so much, like especially because you are like for me, gym was my life. It was everything, right? And I've seen we've done such a great job with management and with putting so many guys on cards on either it's UFC or regional or local,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Where you would have five, six, seven guys. Sometimes we had one LFA card over here.
Mhm.
LFA, right? Came to
Yeah.
Albuquerque. We had eight fighters on that card. Eight fighters. All good guys, all good
Yeah.
fighters, right? One won out of all
Wow.
eight. Seven lost. And that's our hometown. Think
It was in Albuquerque.
yeah, and it happened so many times. I remember we had an event where in Europe, somewhere in Canada, I don't remember. We had five UFC fights in one night, 0-5. You know, yeah, and all the camps go through that. So
Mhm.
think about. I mean, first of all, it's a big paycheck for the gym, right? Because
Yeah,
you get,
yeah.
you got win bonus and you got and you got your, regular show money and you know how it is, right?
Right.
Show
Yeah,
money
yeah. Show win money.
and win money. So, and if you're talking about like bigger paychecks, 50 plus 50, 60 plus 6, whatever, that's a good chunk of money to lose. And
Yeah.
if you like had so many fights scheduled, plus each time the fighter loses, it's a step back,
Hmm.
right? So you got to now win, to get, if you're running for a title contention, you're running to get into top 10, and you think like this is the guy, but then they lose. Back in the line, buddy, back in the line, right? So, and it's a grinder, man. It's like that,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
non-stop, and a lot of disappointment. I would say in this business, way more disappointments than like, well,
Successes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's a very hard sport.
All right. So it's the top of the tier ranking is S tier GOAT, like the GOAT status of the sport. And the D tier is, guys that really just didn't get their shot in the sport. So first at the start of the list, we have Khabib.
Yes, of course, top of the list.
All right. One of my personal favorite fighters of all time, Carlos Condit. Where did you put him?
A
Carlos Condit, a guy like BJ Penn. He had his career there, right?
Yeah, but it was at the end. I mean, I mean, he is one of the goats. Like,
Mhm.
if I were to put him somewhere, he didn't end his career on the right note, but he would be an ass.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean that guy is a goat.
like
Um,
how Jon Jones is an ass right away. Holly is an ass.
yeah. Holly trained at Jackson Wing for the majority of her career, right?
Since 15, 16 years of age.
How
Yeah,
is that? Because she's one of the greatest, female fighters in MMA history.
good. She's a great person. She's a very good person. Like unfortunately, she couldn't hold on to the belt.
Mm,
For so long, but she always fought top girls,
yeah,
period.
yeah.
Just
And
nuts.
she was a brawler too. She was like a fun fighter to watch as
She
well.
was she was overthinker, and she was overthinker and didn't commit. And the way I saw it, she didn't commit to where it's needed to be. And the grappling kind of came to her a little bit later. Like if she was a little bit more grappling heavy,
Mm,
she would have held on to that title against Misha Tate, but and she was winning the fight. She missed a takedown at the end and
mhm.
obviously got choked. But she was literally on Monday back in the gym defending chokes. So she
Really?
is the one that probably the most hardworking fighters I've seen in this business. Period.
Wow.
She's
Really?
a workhorse. Yeah.
The next day. That's very impressive. So Holly Holm, the hardest worker in UFC history. Fuck it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cub Swanson, he's at Bloodline CSA now. Was he a
Yeah.
guy that what was that?
That was at the end, yeah. Like he'll build his own team, but he spent majority of his career with Greg.
He's That one of the biggest brawlers of all time.
I put him in I put him in B, right? Because he never won the title really, but great, phenomenal fighter, just hit and miss. But
That he ended the career on a good note, and like you said, he's one of the coaches at Bloodline as well, right?
yeah, it's his management team and everything. Yeah,
They're on a hot streak right now, 4 cards in a row with a victory on it. So look out for those guys.
Bettis, of course, he came at the end. He came just to dabble a little bit to help Cowboy and kind of came in, did a little bit more fights. But he was mostly with Duke Rufus. But of course, he's a ass fighter. He's a
Yes.
champion.
Yeah, he was one of the
I
good.
just right away put these guys, okay, so because we're going to be here for a while. But Rashad Evans definitely ass. Arlo, I mean Overeem ass. Even though he didn't win UFC title, he came in late, but he won everything there is to win.
That guy was crazy.
Um,
Was was he natural? That's the question. Was he on steroids?
I don't discuss that, bro. Like it's whatever, like he didn't need to be not on steroids when he was fighting outside UFC. So, and you could say that about majority of fighters. You don't
Yeah.
know who was on what, and I don't specialize in that, So I
100%. Yeah. Just because I mean Overeem, that's a Hulk. He has him and Brock are probably the two as craziest physiques I've ever seen in the
yeah, any
sport.
of the fighters I'm looking through, I wouldn't put anybody in C or D because this is all like major. It's between S, A, and B. Like Clay Guida would be right, be B.
B, you think?
Uh,
Toronto.
Pioneer, Carano B. George St. Pierre, 100%
Yeah,
S.
that one's obvious.
Liba Goutinov, fought for title B, Cowboy, I mean B.
Really? No way. Cerrone doesn't meet A?
I guess he didn't perform well in all his title fights. Like he would get there and just wasn't there, like he has a lot of losses. Like he finishes, I mean, never held the title, right? Never,
True.
he was just a very active fighter,
Yeah.
extremely active, but very high level. But at the same time, like, Pico is B. Still, we don't know where he's gonna go.
Hmm.
Um,
With Khabib, Jon Jones, GSP, this S tier, who do you put at the top, very first spot?
John,
John? Would you go
yeah,
John Khabib?
John, George,
John, oh,
yeah, Khabib.
is that your top three all time, or just that you've trained
Oh,
with?
if Fedor Emelianenko was in there, I would have him in the mix. Fedor is the greatest, just never fought in the UFC. But
Hmm.
Khabib only fought for title 4 times. Jon Jones and George St. Pierre. I mean, they beat so many records. Even Khabib would put them ahead of him. Yeah, he's got undefeated and everything. But George St. Pierre and Rashad Evans, they stand on their own.
Oh, Rashad Evans as well.
I mean, sorry, George St. Pierre.
Oh,
George St.
you're,
Pierre
yeah.
and John, they stand on their
Uh, now we have Brian Stan. Where do you put him?
Yeah, B.
Uh,
Michelle B.
John Dodson.
Yeah, this is very subjective.
Hmm.
So I would put everyone at B that you
The rest
have.
of the guys B.
Yeah, just kind of like I can't put anybody C or D because
True.
these all legends of the sport. I love Diego Brandao, still fighting. He's at
Yeah.
65.
Didn't you say you signed him right to Vanguard?
Skill wise, actually, I don't even put him at A because he just if he was if Diego was just his mind was clear and he trained the way he was supposed to, he wouldn't have majority of those lows. This guy would be a world champion. He's just his own worst enemy sometimes, but he would
Hmm.
have been a UFC world champion. He can actually even be now a UFC world champion if he would have gotten a chance. He just literally was told that if he win 3 fights on the regional scene, he would get signed to UFC. He went the tough enough, beat who's of who, all the top prospects, destroy them all, and he was so motivated by that, and he didn't get signed to UFC. They didn't bring him back, but they signed two of those three guys,
Weird.
Siraj and Kamaka. They signed them to UFC, while Diego Brandao just beat the crap out of him. So go figure, a motivated Diego would beat anyone in the world.
And you said he's just signed with Karate FC, correct?
Karate Combat,
Karate
KC.
Combat, right?
Frank Mir and Andre, I would put at A.
Two goats of the sport.
Yeah, definitely goats.
And
Diego,
finally,
I put Diego at A.
Diego and A.
Yeah.
You
And
said he
quite
was a personality that you, one of the bigger personalities in the gym.
crazy personality. Me and him traveled to Russia together, man. It was the funnest trip of my life. Claudia Gadelha, she was brief with us, but she's an A.
A.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's the list. What are your any final changes in order?
You know what? I think I would put John Dodson in A too, man, because did fight for title, went all the way to Mighty Mouse, gave him very good fights. Let's put Cowboy in A too.
Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
that's
Take
the
a
final.
Yeah, a little bit more balance. Michelle is awesome. I love Michelle. She's such a great person. One of the best persons. Very good fighter. The only thing she's so undersized in majority of her fights. She fought so many bigger girls. Like if there was a smaller weight class, she would dominate it. And just in the UFC, they didn't have the right weight class for her. So if she would have fought at her normal,
Mhm.
what was it, UFC, what, 115,
Yeah,
right?
115 is the smallest.
Yeah, so if there was 110, for example, she would be the GOAT,
You think so?
100%.
Wow. Okay,
Look at all the girls that she fought. They were huge,
it's true.
huge. She's tiny. So she had a nickname, Peanut, called it Peanut. She's so tiny, like a peanut.
I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day for this. I just really appreciate it, and it's been an honor.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. Yeah, hopefully you succeed on your venture, and if you ever need anything, keep doing your thing. I'll send some fighters your way too once.
Awesome. Yeah, I would any fighter set my way, I'd love to sit down with.
Sounds good, man. Well, pleasure to meet you. Yeah.
It was a pleasure.